You are on Crocodile's True Stories channel. Enjoy listening. It happened on a Thursday evening, one of those oddly warm spring nights where the air smells like wet pavement and budding grass. I remember it clearly because Thursdays were usually the worst days of my week. Long client meetings, end-of-cycle reviews, the kind of tedious stuff that left you too drained to even complain. But that day, by some divine stroke of luck, the meeting I was dreading got canceled. Just like that, a last-minute email from the client saying something about a scheduling conflict. I shut my laptop, grabbed my keys, and left work early for once. The plan was simple. I'd pick up Thai food from the place she liked, the hole-in-the-wall spot with bad lighting and incredible pad CEW. I'd get home before her, surprise her, maybe open a bottle of wine we'd been saving. Something normal, something good. Only, when I turned onto our street, her car was already in the driveway. At first, I felt that small spark of happiness. Maybe she had the same idea, a little spontaneous together time after weeks of mismatched schedules and half-finished conversations. But as I pulled up beside her car, I noticed something odd. The interior light was still on. The front door was slightly ajar. It wasn't alarming, exactly, just strange enough to plant a question in my mind. The house was silent when I stepped inside. Not quiet, silent. The kind of stillness that makes your skin tense just slightly. No TV, no music, not even the sound of footsteps. I called her name once. No answer. The air smelled different. Not bad, just unfamiliar. And for some reason, I felt the need to tread lightly, like walking into a room you weren't supposed to see. I set the bag of food down on the kitchen counter and made my way upstairs, my footsteps muffled by the carpeted stairs. As I reached the landing, I heard it, the soft, unmistakable sound of the balcony door closing. Click. Not slammed. Not forced. Just closed. Deliberately. I turned the corner to our bedroom and found her sitting on the edge of the bed. Her body stiffened the second she saw me. She jumped a little, like she'd been caught doing something wrong, like a kid sneaking cookies before dinner. Her phone was in her hand, held tightly. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me as if she was trying to figure out what I already knew. "Hey," she said finally. "You're home early." I nodded, scanning the room. "Yeah, meeting got canceled last minute." I don't know what I expected in return. A smile, maybe. Oh, what a nice surprise. But instead, she just nodded slowly and set her phone down beside her. That's when I noticed it. 2 glasses on the nightstand. Identical. Both with condensation, both used. One had a faint pink smudge, her lipstick. The other didn't. She must have seen my eyes go to them because she immediately stood up and started talking too fast. "I was just cleaning up. I made a drink and poured one for you. But then I forgot," and she stopped herself. "And the neighbor's cat ran in again through the balcony." I blinked. The neighbor's cat? Yeah, from across the fence. I think it jumped over. I was outside for a bit, and then it just wandered in. The lie, if that's what it was, came out too quickly. Too smooth, yet too clumsy. Her voice was trying too hard to sound casual. But her eyes didn't match. They looked guilty, almost afraid. She walked over and started picking up the glasses, turning her back to me like she didn't want me to see her face. There was a faint smell in the room. Not perfume. Cologne. But not mine. It wasn't the brand I wore. It had a sharper note to it, something woodsy and unfamiliar. Like pine layered over leather. I didn't say anything about it. Not then. I sat down on the edge of the bed where she'd been, still warm. The balcony curtain was swaying lightly. She walked past me, too quickly, heading to the bathroom. "I'll be right back," she said, voice tight. The bathroom door closed. Not slammed. Just enough. I stared at the spot where she had been sitting. My own reflection in the dark TV screen looked back at me, quiet, still, uncertain. I knew something was off. I didn't want to admit it to myself yet, but deep down, I already had. My brain was trying to reason it away. Maybe she really was cleaning. Maybe the neighbor's cat really was to blame. Maybe the second glass was a leftover from yesterday. But my body felt otherwise. My heart was already pounding with a kind of anxious suspicion I couldn't shake. The kind you don't feel unless there's a reason. She came out of the bathroom a minute later, acting like nothing had happened. She smiled, a thin, polite kind of smile, and walked over to the bag of food I'd brought. "You got Thai?" she asked, a little too cheerful. "Yeah," I said. "Figured you'd want something easy." She nodded, started unpacking the food. Didn't meet my eyes. We ate in the living room. No TV. Just us and the sound of takeout containers being opened and plastic forks scraping against cardboard. She asked about work. I answered. I asked about her day. She answered. It was all normal on the surface. But something had changed. I could feel it. A shift I couldn't unfeel, no matter how much I tried. That night, as I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling, I thought about those glasses. The smell. The door. The excuse. And her face. That look of being caught. I didn't accuse her. I didn't ask follow-up questions. I didn't start a fight. But something cracked inside me. Something small, maybe, but permanent. The kind of fracture that doesn't make a sound when it happens, but never really heals once it's there. I rolled over, away from her, and tried to sleep. But sleep didn't come easily, and trust would come even harder. I tried to forget it. That night with the glasses, the cat excuse, the scent of cologne. I tried to file it away as a strange, uncomfortable coincidence. I told myself I was overthinking it, letting my imagination get ahead of me. But that's the problem with things that crack you from the inside. They don't just go away. They echo. They multiply. The next morning, I woke up before her. Not by design, not intentionally, just opened my eyes earlier than usual and found myself staring at the ceiling. She was still asleep beside me, breathing softly, one arm draped over the comforter like she hadn't moved all night. But I noticed something right away. Her phone, normally on the charger next to the bed, wasn't there. I glanced around. It was on her side of the bed, underneath her pillow. That wasn't like her. She used to sleep with her phone on the nightstand, screen up, always charging. Now it was under the pillow, face down, unplugged. That morning detail alone shouldn't have meant anything. But in context, it rang loud. She stirred, sensing me moving. I got up without saying much and went downstairs to make coffee. I could hear her in the bathroom not long after, the familiar sounds of the faucet, the soft shuffle of her routine. But I couldn't unsee what I saw last night. And that was when I started noticing everything. Like how she suddenly began stepping out to run errands more often. Grocery trips that used to take 20 minutes now lasted over an hour. She came back with only a few items and vague explanations. I had to stop at another store, or traffic was crazy. But I checked Waze once, no traffic. And then there were the phone calls. The ones she would step outside to take. At first, she'd answer in front of me, casual stuff. Her mom, her best friend, work. But now, whenever the screen lit up, she'd glance at it, excuse herself, and take the call in the backyard or the hallway. I'd ask who it was sometimes. She always had an answer, but she never let me see the screen. Her phone started staying in her purse when she was home. Always locked, always face down. She changed her lock screen wallpaper too, from a photo of the two of us at the lake to some default mountain image. When I asked about it, she shrugged and said she needed something less busy for work. Less busy. Right. One night, I caught a glimpse of a message that lit up while she was cooking. I hadn't been trying to snoop. I was just handing her a towel when the screen lit up. A heart emoji, followed by, still thinking about last night. I froze. My breath actually caught for a second. She saw my eyes drop to her phone and snatched it quickly, turned the screen off with a side glance, and said, "Wow, nosy much?" "Sorry," I muttered, playing dumb. "You know," she said, turning back to the stove. "It's really exhausting always feeling like I'm being watched." That one hit hard. It was so quick, so practiced, like she had the defensive speech already prepared. I apologized, even though I wasn't sure why. I told myself it was better not to push, not to become the paranoid guy who wrecks his own relationship by asking too many questions. But from that moment on, I was watching. Just quietly. She started working late more often. She used to get home around 6, maybe 6:30. Now it was closer to 8. Sometimes later. She blamed end-of-quarter reports, short-staffed teams, client emergencies. All the usual suspects. One night, I offered to bring her dinner at the office. She told me not to. "I'll be in meetings most of the night," she said. "Even during dinner?" She gave me a look. "It's complicated. Don't worry about it." She said it like she was doing me a favor, sparing me from some stressful detail. But I wasn't spared. I was slowly being hollowed out by doubt. The worst part? I started changing without even realizing it. I stopped reaching for her when I went to bed. I stopped texting her funny things during the day, stopped tagging her in memes we used to laugh at. I found myself looking through our old photos, wondering when exactly she started pulling away. I couldn't pinpoint it, but I knew it happened before the glasses, before the cologne, before the balcony door clicked shut. Something had been unraveling long before that night. And now that I'd seen it, I couldn't unsee it. Every smile she gave me felt practiced. Every "I love you" felt slightly delayed. The pauses between her words were longer now, like she was filtering every sentence. And I kept wondering, who was she texting when she turned her back on me at night? What kind of conversations was she having while I was working late to support this life we built? There was a Friday where she came home in this dress I hadn't seen in months. This black one with a low back she'd worn on our anniversary the year before. She walked in like she was floating. Lipstick perfect. Her hair curled just enough to look casual. I was sitting on the couch, eating leftover pizza in gym shorts. She froze when she saw me. "Oh," she said. "I didn't think you'd be home." "I work from home on Fridays," I said slowly. "Right," she replied, her smile faltering. Then she said she was going upstairs to change. She returned in sweatpants, and I pretended I hadn't noticed. The unraveling was happening slowly, so slowly that if I hadn't been paying attention, I might have called it a rough patch. But I was paying attention now, and everything I saw started forming a pattern. I caught the smell of that cologne again. Twice. Once on the towel rack. Once faintly in the back seat of her car when we swapped keys because she needed mine for a service appointment. The scent wasn't strong, but it was there. Not mine. Not hers. Someone else's. And then there was the night she left her email open on our shared iPad. She never used it much, but she had once synced her Gmail to it when we traveled. I was just checking the calendar when I saw it, a message in the promotions tab from some random wine bar downtown, thanking her for her recent visit and offering a discount on her next tasting for two. Tasting for two. I clicked it open. The timestamp was from 3 days ago. A Wednesday. She said she'd been working late. I didn't say anything. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because I needed more than hunches and lipstick-stained glasses. I needed to be sure. Not for her, but for me. And that's when the idea started forming. I wasn't going to live like this, walking on eggshells, second-guessing everything she said, playing detective in my own home. If there was something going on, I needed to know the truth. Fully. Clearly. Without her spin. Because what scared me the most wasn't losing her. It was the idea that I'd already lost her. And she just hadn't told me yet. It was raining the day everything came out into the open. The kind of cold, steady rain that doesn't crash down violently, but soaks you little by little until you're drenched without realizing. That morning, I had planned to sleep in, a rare luxury after weeks of insomnia and restless nights. But something stirred me awake. I can't say what it was exactly. Maybe instinct. Maybe some corner of my brain finally refusing to play dumb. I glanced at the time, 6:12 a.m. The house was quiet. She was already gone. Odd. She normally never left that early. I got up, checked my phone. No messages. I wandered into the kitchen and saw a coffee mug still half full on the counter. Hers. A half-hearted lipstick print on the rim. That told me enough. She'd left in a rush. By noon, the rain had picked up. I went out for a run anyway. Something about pushing my body felt necessary, like I could outrun whatever was unraveling inside me. I didn't even take my normal route. I just started running. No music, no direction, just the steady rhythm of water hitting pavement and the sound of my own breath. I ended up back home earlier than I expected. Soaked, heart pounding, clothes clinging to me. I remember hesitating at the door. Something felt off. The kind of off that makes the hair on your arms stand up before your brain catches up. The front door was unlocked. I hadn't forgotten to lock it. I always locked it, even when I was just going for a short run. A reflex from living in this house for years. I stepped inside slowly, not making a sound. It was faint at first, voices. Too. Muffled. Coming from the living room. I stood in the hallway, dripping water onto the floor, not breathing. Her voice. And a man's voice. Not on the phone. Not on the TV. Here. In my house. They were talking low, like people who didn't want to be overheard. But I caught pieces. "You said he'd be out longer? Don't worry. He never comes back this early." Then laughter. Soft. Familiar. And then movement. The shuffle of feet. A creak of the couch. Still, neither of them saw me. I don't know how long I stood there. Could have been a minute. Could have been 10. My heart was thudding so hard I felt it in my ears. And for a moment, I almost turned and walked back out. Not out of cowardice. Out of some warped attempt to hold on to whatever version of my life still made sense. But I didn't. I stepped forward, slowly, like I was entering a crime scene. Because in a way I was. She saw me first. Her entire expression collapsed. Eyes wide. Face pale. Like someone had opened the floor beneath her and she was still falling. She didn't say my name. Didn't move. Just stared. Guilty, frozen, panicked. The man, and yes, there was a man, stood up so fast he knocked something off the coffee table. He was wearing a hoodie and jeans, face flushed, trying to button up his shirt like it would erase the scene I just walked into. I didn't recognize him. I also didn't say anything. Not a word. And that silence? That's what hit her the hardest. I could see it in the way she flinched when I didn't yell. When I didn't ask why. Or how could you? She expected rage. She was bracing for chaos. But all I gave her was stillness. Because sometimes stillness is worse. The man glanced at her, then at me, then back again. I think I should go, he muttered, eyes low. No one stopped him. He walked past me without a word, moving fast, not looking up. I didn't watch him leave. My eyes never left her. She was still standing there, wrapped in a thin sweater that didn't belong to me, her hands shaking slightly as she struggled to find something, anything, to say. I didn't know you'd be back, she whispered. That was the first thing she chose to say. Not I'm sorry. Not let me explain. Just that. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw someone I didn't recognize. Her face was the same. Her voice was the same. But she felt like a stranger. And yet, this was the same woman I'd shared a bed with. The same woman I'd built a life around. That disconnect, that sudden distance between who she was and who she had become, was jarring. Like waking up in a house that looks like yours, but realizing every object has been slightly moved. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, how long? She blinked. Her mouth opened, then closed. She took a breath, tried again. A couple of months, she said, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. A couple of months. I nodded. No reaction. No explosion. Just silence. She took a step toward me. I stepped back. I didn't mean for you to find out like this, she said, eyes glistening now. Yeah. I replied. How do you mean for it to go? That broke her a little. Her face crumpled. I don't know. I was going to end it. I swear. I didn't know how to tell you. You told me. She swallowed hard. I stood there for a while longer, trying to decide what came next. Part of me wanted to storm out, slam the door, make her feel the kind of drama she'd just injected into my life. Another part of me wanted to sit down and try to understand. But the part that won? The one that had been slowly detaching for weeks. The part that had already rehearsed this moment 1,000 different ways. I turned and walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking, but my voice was even. I want him to never come near this house again, I said. She nodded quickly, like a kid getting scolded. Of course. He won't. He doesn't matter. I raised an eyebrow. She flinched again. I took a sip, set the glass down. I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. Please don't, she said. Let's just talk. Please. We can figure this out. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You made a choice. This is what that choice looks like. Her eyes welled again, but I was done being moved by that. She tried to say my name. Please just. No, I cut her off. Calmly, quietly. I saw enough. I packed a bag in 5 minutes. One change of clothes. My laptop. A toothbrush. She stood in the doorway the whole time, watching me, like if she stood still enough, I might forget what I saw and just stay. But I didn't. I walked out without slamming the door. Because I didn't need to be loud to be done. I didn't sleep much that night. The hotel room was clean, sterile, lit by the soft glow of a bedside lamp I never turned off. I sat on the edge of the bed for hours, fully dressed, my bag unopened. I stared at nothing in particular. The muted hum of the air conditioner, the faint sound of traffic outside, and the occasional footsteps in the hallway made up the new soundtrack of my life. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Just done. The part of me that used to cling to hope had finally let go. Not with a dramatic bang. No screaming or door slamming. It just slipped away quietly, like the last bit of warmth from a dying fire. I didn't cry. I didn't text her. I didn't check to see if she had tried to reach out. I just sat in the quiet. In the morning, I went back home, not because I wanted to but because it was still technically my house. I didn't plan to talk. I just wanted a change of clothes, my charger, maybe my book from the nightstand. I was hoping she wouldn't be there. But of course, she was. She was sitting on the couch in sweatpants, hair tied up, a mug in her hands she wasn't drinking from. Her eyes widened when she saw me, hopeful, almost, like I might walk over, kiss her on the forehead, and tell her we could work through it. I didn't. I walked past her without a word, straight upstairs. She followed me, slow steps like she was walking through fog. I could feel her behind me as I moved through the bedroom, grabbing what I needed. She stood near the door, hugging herself. "You didn't come back last night," she said, as if I hadn't made that perfectly clear when I left with a bag in my hand. "Nope," I replied flatly. She shifted her weight, lips pressing together like she was trying not to say the wrong thing. "I didn't sleep either." I didn't respond. "Can we talk?" she asked after a pause. I zipped up my duffel bag and looked at her. "About what?" Her eyes glistened, but she didn't let the tears fall this time. "About us." I gave a quiet laugh. Not cruel, just tired. "Us." She swallowed. "You don't even want to try?" I stared at her for a long time, and that was the first moment I realized it. I wasn't heartbroken. Not anymore. I wasn't desperate to fix anything. I wasn't picturing her with him and burning up with jealousy. I was just numb. "You already tried," I said, "with someone else." That shut her down. She didn't argue, didn't offer excuses. She just stood there, arms tight around herself, silent. "I'll come by in the evenings," I added, "to get more of my things." She nodded slowly. "You're leaving?" "I'm detaching," I said. "There's a difference." I left again. This time, I stayed at my friend Caleb's place. I told him the bare minimum, that things with her were over, that I needed a couch for a while, that I didn't want to talk about it. He didn't press, just handed me a beer and said, "Stay as long as you need." The days that followed blurred together. I started going to bed earlier, waking up earlier. I hit the gym before sunrise. I buried myself in work. I stopped checking her socials, stopped wondering what she was doing. I didn't even bother changing my relationship status. It didn't feel necessary. Because emotionally, I was already gone. When I came back to the house a few days later, she was in the kitchen pretending to do something. Cutting vegetables she probably wasn't planning to eat. The smell of a candle she used to burn during holidays filled the air, like she was trying to recreate comfort from thin air. "Hey," she said, barely above a whisper. I walked past her, grabbed a box from the closet, and headed upstairs. I didn't answer. I didn't have anything left to give. She followed me again. "You've barely looked at me," she said, lingering in the doorway. "You haven't said more than a few words." "I've said all I need to," I replied. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her back to me, her voice barely holding steady. "I know I hurt you, but I'm still here. I didn't leave." "No," I said as I folded a stack of clothes. "You just let someone else in while I wasn't looking." That broke her a little. She put her face in her hands. "I didn't stop what I was doing. I didn't want to lose you," she said, muffled by her palms. "You lost me the second you stopped caring if I stayed," I said. She was quiet after that. I finished packing, zipped up the suitcase, and walked out. The rest of the week went the same way. She'd try to initiate small talk, ask if I wanted dinner, if I'd heard about some show we used to watch, if I'd seen her blue hoodie. I kept it all surface level. Nods, shrugs, a few not sure's. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It was peace. I'd given her so much of myself for so long, trying to keep us connected, trying to be enough. And now, I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted distance. Emotional space. She could live in that house and pretend it still felt like a home. But for me, it had become a place I passed through, not a place I returned to. I stopped sleeping in our bed. I took the guest room when I stayed over, and even then, I didn't bring my things back. It was temporary. A technicality. I didn't belong there anymore, and we both knew it. I caught her crying once, not the loud, gasping kind. The quiet sobs. Behind the bathroom door at 2 a.m. She must have thought I was asleep. But I heard her. I heard the faint sniffles, the way she tried to hide it, the way she turned on the faucet to drown the sound. I didn't get up. I didn't knock. Not out of cruelty. Just finality. Her sadness didn't move me anymore. Her pain wasn't mine to carry. And strangely, that realization didn't make me feel bitter. It made me feel clean. We had reached the point of no return. She could still cook dinner and play music in the kitchen, and I could still sit silently on the couch, scrolling through my phone like nothing was wrong. But it was all fake. A script we were pretending to still follow. She tried, in little ways, to reverse time, to recreate the man I used to be. But that man had packed a suitcase in silence and walked out of the home he once built. He wasn't coming back. I think she sensed it too. I saw it in the way her shoulders dropped every time I didn't react. In the way she looked at me like she didn't recognize who I had become. But that's what happens when you lose someone slowly. You don't even notice it until they're standing in front of you, colder, quieter, unreachable. And you realize that everything you thought was fixable had already bled out long ago. About a week after the confrontation, after the silence, the guest room, the unspoken boundary lines drawn like fault lines through the house, she began trying again. Not with apologies. Not with honesty. With gestures. Small, deliberate, almost theatrical efforts. As if she were trying to recreate who we used to be using props and rehearsed routines. It started with coffee. Every morning now, there was a mug waiting for me on the counter. Not just any mug, my favorite one. The chipped white ceramic with the faded university logo I never let her throw away. The brew inside. Just the way I liked it. Medium roast. A splash of oat milk. 2 sugars, stirred. I didn't touch it. Not once. She'd linger nearby when I came down, pretending to scroll her phone or tidy something. Watching me, waiting for me to acknowledge it. But I'd walk right past, pour myself a fresh cup, and take it to the other room. Then came the photos. Not new ones, old ones. Framed memories pulled from drawers and boxes. She began placing them around the house like she was setting a stage. Us at the lake house. At her cousin's wedding. That ridiculous Halloween where I dressed as a ghost and she as a witch. Photos I hadn't seen in years suddenly popped up on the hallway shelf, the mantle, the fridge. One night, I came home late and found our wedding album open on the dining table, right at the page with the vows. My handwriting crooked and messy, hers elegant and clean. The page was angled just enough to make sure I'd see it. I closed it. Didn't say a word. She tried laughter next. Over dinner, which she now started cooking again, she would try to be light. Playful even. Reminiscing about old inside jokes, about road trips and Netflix binges and little memories we hadn't talked about in years. But she was performing it all. I could hear it in the way her voice strained for levity, like a singer off pitch. I'd nod sometimes. That was it. Never a full smile. Never a laugh. Because I remembered those things too. But I also remembered how easily she threw them away. She dressed differently too. Not for work, for me. The navy dress I used to love. The soft flannel shirt she'd stolen from my closet because it smelled like me. She wore lipstick again. Brushed her hair in that soft wave she knew I liked. She walked slower when she passed me. Let her fingers brush against mine while reaching for something. Sat beside me on the couch even when there was an empty chair. It was all so calculated. The performance of closeness without the substance. She sent texts too. Midday check-ins. Random thinking of you messages. One day, she sent a photo of a dog we'd seen once and joked about adopting. No caption, just the photo and a heart. I didn't respond. She started cooking meals from the early years, the kind we used to make together in our first apartment. Stir-fry, penne alla vodka, grilled cheese with caramelized onions. One night, she made my mom's pot roast recipe and left a note beside it that said, "Thought this might bring some comfort." I didn't need it. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't need the illusion of comfort made from something hollow. She tried to bring back rituals, suggesting we watch a movie like we used to on Fridays, asking if I wanted to go for a walk like we used to on Sundays, playing old playlists in the background while she cleaned, even the one we made together during the first year of our marriage, back when love felt simple. But she never brought up what mattered. She never said, "I lied." She never said, "I chose someone else." She never said, "I destroyed something sacred." Instead, she danced around the edges of truth, trying to paint over the cracks with soft colors and warm scents and good intentions. But the foundation was already crumbling, and she was acting like scented candles and warm dinners could make me forget the wreckage underneath. She still cried, but not in front of me. I'd hear it at night, the soft kind of crying, muffled into a pillow, trapped in the bathroom. Not loud enough to force a conversation. Just loud enough to remind me she was still hurting. But I didn't move. I didn't knock. Her grief didn't pull me in anymore. It didn't feel like something shared. It felt like something she had to sit with alone, the echo of her own decisions. I know she thought my silence was punishment, maybe even cruelty, but it wasn't. I wasn't trying to break her down. I wasn't trying to teach her a lesson. I just didn't have anything left. Nothing to give. Nothing to explain. Nothing to argue about. The part of me that once would have fought for her was already gone. And she felt it. She saw it in the way I looked at her, or didn't. In the way I passed her in the hallway like she was furniture. In the way I responded to her efforts with quiet neutrality, never hostility, just absence. It terrified her. Not because I was angry, but because I was unreachable. She had feared the affair might break us, but it didn't. It revealed we were already broken. She had feared I might scream or cry or beg her to stay, but I didn't. She had feared a dramatic ending, but what she got was worse. She got indifference. Because when someone stops caring, you can't win them back with nostalgia or perfume or memories printed on glossy paper. You can't perform love to someone who has stopped looking for proof. And I had stopped. I didn't hate her. I didn't wish her harm. I just didn't wish anything anymore. She still lived in the same house. But I was no longer part of it.